Hello. Thanks for joining us again on the channel. Okay, yes, we've reviewed a lot of these. Too many, probably. But trust me, this one stands out. It caught me off guard, in a good way. Before we get started, there's a special discount if you're interested. The link is in the description and also in the top comment. Now, let's not waste any more time and jump right into the details.
Now, let's hear directly from our first reviewer about their experience.
This reviewer, having been a loyal customer of the brand for over 2 decades, decided to invest in this premium mesh system to upgrade their home network. The initial experience, however, was far from smooth. The setup process was described as incredibly frustrating, being entirely dependent on a mobile app that repeatedly failed to work. This led to a long and tedious troubleshooting session, culminating in a lengthy wait on hold for technical support. A technician eventually guided our reviewer through an alternative browser-based setup, a method not mentioned in any of the included documentation. Once past that significant installation hurdle, the performance of this mesh router was genuinely impressive. For over a year, it delivered flawlessly, providing fast and stable wireless speeds that were a massive improvement over their previous setup. Streaming was buffer-free, the guest network was simple to configure, and even large local file transfers were remarkably quick. During this time, the system met every expectation and seemed to justify its high-end price tag. Unfortunately, this positive experience came to an abrupt end when a critical hardware failure occurred just weeks after the warranty had expired. All the wired Ethernet ports on the main unit simply stopped functioning. When this client contacted customer support, they weren't looking for a free replacement but hoped for a reasonable solution, like a discounted refurbished unit, given their long history with the brand and how recently the warranty lapsed. Instead, they were met with indifference, passed between departments, and ultimately told their only option was to buy a brand new system. This lack of support and flexibility left our reviewer deeply disappointed, tarnishing an otherwise powerful product and a long-standing brand relationship.
All right, let's find out what our next reviewer has to share.
This reviewer had a bit of a roller coaster experience trying to upgrade their home network with this mesh system. Initially, they were excited to replace their aging system with a newer model boasting Wi-Fi 6 capabilities. The router module configured easily enough, but the satellite unit just refused to connect, no matter what troubleshooting steps they tried. Frustrated, our reviewer contacted tech support and spent a considerable amount of time going through various checks, only to be told to return the entire unit. Then came another hurdle. Apparently, Amazon wouldn't allow a direct exchange, only a return. However, after some persistence and a helpful customer service agent, they managed to get a replacement sent out. Unfortunately, the replacement presented the exact same problem. Once again, the main router module connected without a hitch, but the satellite stubbornly refused to cooperate. At this point, this client was seriously questioning their decision to upgrade, even going so far as to reinstall their old system, which predictably worked perfectly. After several attempts to resolve the issue with tech support and still facing the same problem, our reviewer almost gave up completely. However, they managed to find a support rep who pinpointed the issue as a firmware incompatibility between the router and the satellite. The router was automatically updating to the latest firmware, while the satellite was stuck on an older version, preventing them from syncing up. By manually updating the satellite's firmware, the reviewer was finally able to get the whole system up and running.
Fantastic. Now, let's see what insights our next reviewer has to offer.
This reviewer is sharing their experience with a mesh Wi-Fi system they recently purchased. The biggest hurdle our reviewer faced was the outdated firmware on this particular model. Apparently, it was an older production unit, and the initial firmware update only brought it to an intermediate version, not the latest one. The system then stubbornly insisted it was fully up to date, even though it wasn't. This client spent a significant chunk of time, somewhere between 6 and 8 hours, trying to troubleshoot the issue, including multiple calls to customer service. Our reviewer feels that including instructions on how to manually update the firmware would have saved a tremendous amount of frustration, as the automatic update feature wasn't working properly. While the customer service representatives were helpful and friendly, the reviewer was very happy with the service side of the situation. However, it doesn't change the fact that the initial setup was unnecessarily complicated. This person already owns 2 older models of this Wi-Fi system, so he knows what he is doing. Ultimately, this user thinks that once the system is actually running, it performs well. However, prospective buyers need to be aware that they might encounter some setup challenges, and it could take considerable effort to resolve them, especially if they receive a unit with old firmware. The silver lining is that customer service is readily available and supportive if problems do arise. The biggest point of frustration seems to be that the web interface showed a notification about a newer version, but clicking on it only led to a screen that claimed everything was already up to date.
That's it for this one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Appreciate you watching. See you next time.